Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting a like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now today's first story comes from DeliciousBit4226 from the True Off My Chest subreddit and says, really wish I would have just stayed home. My girlfriend came over to my apartment to study and do some homework as she is still in university. When she arrived and started to unpack, she noticed her laptop wasn't in her bag, and being the good boyfriend I am, I told her not to worry, that I will drive over to her house and grab it. I really wish I hadn't. My girlfriend still lives at home and I'm really close to her parents. Both of us are. In fact, I see them as my own. Reason being, my parents are toxic and it's best to go no contact with them for my own sanity. Her father, on the other hand, is a positive male role model in my life. Great job, positive attitude, and always gives good advice in my opinion. He's a great guy, not much else to say. I think highly of her mother as well. Caring, loving, and always supportive of my relationship with her daughter. They both love me, and it's the reason why today shocked me to the core. I have a key to their house, and as I entered, living room is first room upon entry, I see my future mother-in-law and some stranger having sex. Fully nude, not hiding anything. As soon as they saw me, my mother-in-law started panicking and both ran into the back of the house away from me. I heard my mother-in-law cursing over and over. As soon as I realized what was happening, I just backed out of the living room and stood on the front porch. I honestly didn't know what to do. I didn't feel like my place to confront them as it's not my fight. So after about 5 minutes, I re-entered to see the stranger walk past me out of the door, followed shortly by my mother-in-law. As he left, she looked at me and started crying. She broke down and tried explaining the situation away, how their marriage had been suffering and how she loves father-in-law but feels so unsatisfied. She begged me not to say anything, that it was a mistake and it would nuke the family. She was hysterical. I just sort of looked at her. What was I supposed to say? The begging wouldn't stop. She even grabbed onto my shirt. She wanted me to not say anything and let it be swept under the rug. I told her flat out that I'm not lying to save herself. She then begged to be the one to tell father-in-law, to at least give her that. So in the interest of getting the F out of there, I just said sure and went to retrieve what I was there for. I then went immediately home. I haven't told my girlfriend yet as she's still working on assignments, but I plan on telling her afterwards. I'm sad. It's devastating knowing that the comfortable family I found and felt finally a part of is about to be nuked into the sun. I can't imagine how my father-in-law is going to take this. He's a good guy and definitely doesn't deserve getting his heart broken like this. I'm also sad for what my girlfriend is about to hear and what will come of it. It's such a huge, crappy situation that I wish I never had a part of. My poor girlfriend and father-in-law. And we're going to start off with That's the T, who says, you're about to get thrown under the bus. Followed by Just Call Me Pot, who says, my man, you need to tell your girl what you saw ASAP in case your mother-in-law throws some accusations on you. Trust me when I say this, that you need to say something now. Mountain Monitor says she is not going to tell him. She's making up stories about you cheating and how bad you are for their daughter. Then when you tell your side and what you saw, they won't believe you. AAP says, tell your girlfriend and tell your father-in-law exactly what you saw and what she said. I feel so bad for your girlfriend and her dad, and obviously for you, since you were out in such a horrible position. By the way, that wasn't a mistake, that was a choice she made to bang someone else in the home her husband and daughter live in. There's absolutely no excuse. And one more from Fear Edge, who says, I thought this was going to be a happy story and you just walked in on her parents. I was going to comment about having a good relationship with a partner's parents, a goal for me. But no, I'm reading about a guy's family about to get nuked. And to me, I absolutely felt like OP should be telling his girlfriend sort of ASAP really, because say husband does come back very, very soon and she tells him, then husband rings, his daughter and tells her, or however it gets revealed and OP hasn't told his girlfriend and then it gets back to her and she's like, why the hell didn't you tell me about this sooner? I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it shouldn't make a whole bunch of difference because the cheating's happened, etc., but there's just that chance it could potentially damage your relationship, which could easily be solved just by telling her right away. So then OP does update the post, which says, update on the original post I wrote last night. A lot has happened. So I told my girlfriend everything I saw when she finished her homework. She was devastated and crying like I have never seen before. We talked for a good few hours where she disclosed to me that her mum had cheated on her father once before when she was just a child. The affair partner was a boss from her work and had gone on for a few years by that point. She only knew about it later down the line because a family member told her. After I settled her down, I could tell her sadness turned to anger. Around 2 a.m, she insisted we go confront her mum and tell her father everything. I tried talking her out of it and to do this another day and at a better time, but she doubled down saying her mother doesn't deserve peace. So we ended up at her parents' house early in the morning. They were just settling into bed. The look on my mother-in-law's face was obvious she knew what was coming. It was effed up. I've never seen my girlfriend scream and cuss someone out so hard. Every single possible insult was used. My girlfriend told her mother that she's going no contact for good. When things calmed down, her father was clearly baffled and had a lot of questions. I told him everything. What I saw, what I was doing, why I was there, and what mother-in-law said to me. I could tell I just sank this poor man's heart. His eyes filled up with tears, but he just remained silent. I guess she hadn't told him, which I knew was the plan all along. Typical effing cheaters. After another 20 to 30 minutes of cussing, screaming and crying, I was able to get my girlfriend and I to leave. I felt so bad for her and father-in-law. I felt responsible for destroying what I thought was beautiful family. I mean, I don't regret at all spilling the beans, but I just wish I wasn't at the center of it all. I don't want to break the people who I love's hearts. Feels like a nightmare and reality was just turned upside down. When I got home, I got a text from father-in-law saying thanks for being honest and transparent with him. He said he loves me and that we will get through this. He's a great guy. I just can't believe that piece of crap woman did this to him. After a night of little to practically no sleep, I got out of bed this morning and made some breakfast for my girl. We talked and I think she's handling better now, but still not great. I invited father-in-law over if he wanted a place to stay or just lay low for a while. He surprisingly took me up on the offer and came over shortly after. Girlfriend, father-in-law, and I had a pretty lengthy conversation on how he felt and what the next steps are. He looked disorientated but managed to handle himself well. Given all that has happened, it's clear he's deeply in love with mother-in-law. He just kept saying he wants to try and fix it. Girlfriend and I both think that's a bad idea. He told us that the person mother-in-law originally cheated on him with was the same guy she was having sex with. It had been over a decade since she was first caught and must have kept this man in the shadows. I can't believe he's willing to work through this, knowing that. I couldn't at all. My girlfriend later asked where her mum was. Apparently she left in the middle of the night after we left. No one knows where she's at. I wouldn't be surprised if she was at her affair partner's house. Honestly, I'm sick to my stomach over it all. I feel like I destroyed a family. The people who I really care about are broken and hurt. It really sucks. I hate it all and I wish people would just be decent human beings. And I think the very first thing to say after that story is that, OP, you didn't break up the family, you didn't destroy the family, nuke the family, however you want to put it. She did with her own behavior. And hearing it was the same guy from before, a decade before, I couldn't help but think, has this just continued from where it left off the first time they was caught? Was it just concealed further and then carried on? Just absolutely heartbreaking. I mean, it's heartbreaking whichever way you look at it. And I really hope that father-in-law does get out of that situation, because clearly he deserves so much better, but I guess we're not going to find that out right at this moment. So now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from Confused Theatre Geek, who says, my 29 female, boyfriend 32 male, gave away my Hamilton tickets. Am I being selfish for just wanting to break up over this? Throw away because I'm fairly sure he/his family doesn't read it. I would rather be safe than sorry. Backstory, my mum is genuinely one of the funniest, kindest, sweetest people I've ever met, and I'm genuinely lucky to have been her daughter. She had me fairly young, raised me by herself while we were pretty poor growing up. She did her damnedest to make sure that I got a good education and had everything I needed as a kid. One of the things we share is a love of the theatre. She would save up and take me to all the musicals that stopped on tour in our town, and while we were always in the cheap seats, it was always something we both greatly looked forward to. These memories of going to the theatre with my mum are very precious to me and is one of the main factors in why I work in the entertainment industry today. Corporate side. I have a horrendous singing voice. Lol. Fast forward to today. Like most theatre nerds, my mum and I are basically obsessed with Hamilton. And for those of you who aren't really familiar with it, this show is basically impossible to get tickets for at this point, unless you want to see it January of next year. I'm lucky enough to be in a financial position with my job that I can afford tickets for a show in July for me and my mum. These are amazing seats, 5th row center, and through some type of divine intervention I managed to snag tickets for the night that Lin-Manuel Miranda's creator/lead in Hamilton final performance. I surprised my mum with these tickets back in December. I bought them in October, I think, for Christmas. I'm making a whole week of it. I put us up in a really nice hotel. I made reservations at a bunch of restaurants that we both want to try, and we're going to do a bunch of touristy crap in general. Plus try to see if we can fit in at least one other show before we leave. We are both incredibly excited for this. My mum even has a little Hamilton countdown that she's doing on a mini chalkboard she uses as a planner. She sends me pics every day when she changes it. It's cute. In January, I began dating this guy that I refer to as Josh. We were casual/not exclusive for a while, but became serious within the last 2 months. He also works in the corporate side of entertainment, but at a different agency than I do. He also has a higher position than me and makes a lot more money than I do. This becomes important. We met at an industry event and we hit it off instantly. I thought I could get really serious about this guy, and up to this point there have been no red flags that I've seen. Although, to be honest, right now I'm sifting through all of my memories to see if there's something I missed. He also comes from a much wealthier family than I do. Josh has a younger sister that I call Jennifer, 17, that's kind of going through a troubled teen phase. She cut classes, smokes, and is really disrespectful to her parents. I've only met her once, but as far as I know, she's not doing anything too bad. She's just kind of a sad kid and could really benefit from some therapy. I floated this by Josh, but he said his parents are kind of disdainful of therapy in general. Josh says they can't reach out to her no matter what they do, and they've tried everything, except trying to get her to a counselor, but whatever. Actual problem time. Sunday night, I was at my place with Josh. We were drinking wine and cuddling while watching the Tonys, theatre's award show. My mum was texting me during the Hamilton performance and geeking out about how excited she was. I laughed and showed my mum's text to Josh because I thought it was adorable, and he didn't say anything off, but he was acting kind of strange after. He asked me what the date of the show we were going to was. I told him, and then he went into the other room to take a phone call. I thought nothing of it because we both have to take random phone calls like that for our jobs all the time, and he's going through kind of a tough time at his. He was in an unusually good mood afterwards and said he had to go home early because he had to sign some forms at the office early tomorrow, before we met up to get brunch with his parents later that day. Again, nothing too unusual and pretty common with both of us. He picks me up at work for the brunch with his parents, and again, he's in an unusually good mood. I ask what's up, and he says vaguely that things are going well at the office and this deal he's trying to make is finally going through. I don't really press for info because we both try to avoid work topics, partially due to work crap being fairly banal, and partially because we both have to sign some pretty gnarly NDAs a lot of the time. And this is only my second time meeting his parents, so I'm still a bit nervous about brunch. We get to the brunch place, and the first thing his mom does when she sees me is gives me a huge warm hug and profoundly thanks me for my kindness. Her dad also gives me a huge handshake and thanks me for helping out with Jen. I'm kind of what the effing because I have no clue what they are talking about. I ask what she means and she says we're giving her the Hamilton tickets. I turn around to Josh and he just has this big grin on his face. Reddit. That time my boyfriend was away talking on the phone for business, he was actually on the phone with Jen, promising that I would give her my Hamilton tickets. I was so thrown off by this that I kind of, not very tactfully I admit, say how I had no clue about this. Josh looked peeved and his parents are equally thrown off. But instead of getting mad at Josh, his mum just says, well, you can still give them to her though, right? And they all look at me like I'm supposed to just agree with this. I try to explain that the trip is actually for me and my mum, and how important this is to my mum. All three of them start going on about how Jen is super excited about this, and that this is the first time that she's not been mad / expressed happiness to them in a while. And that's how the next half hour goes basically, until the parents leave. mad, and the dad calls me a selfish cow. I'm so flabbergasted that I just sort of put up with it, but I could barely get a word in. Josh and I go outside the brunch place and he starts screaming at me about my selfishness and how Jen is going through a much harder time than they thought. He wasn't very clear on this, so I'm not quite sure what he meant. And that I'm being childish because it's just a musical. I hate having arguments in public. Also, this is one of my favourite brunch spots and I wanted to be able to come back without being embarrassed, so I wasn't really engaging. He eventually called me a "see you next Tuesday." What the F? And then left in his car. Which is awkward as hell because it was valet parking, so he was just kind of stewing by the valet stand while I was waiting for my Uber. Later that night, I text him saying that while I wasn't giving up my tickets, there is still some available on that date. However, they cost about $2,500 due to ticket scalpers jacking up the price. Believe me, this is not a problem for either of the parents or my boyfriend. He literally bought a $3K watch for funsies last week. The only response I got was that was an exorbitant fee. I agree, but not the point. He refuses to pay and he didn't understand why I couldn't just give the tickets to Jen. I also got texts from both of his parents pleading with me to get the tickets, and also they forwarded an email to me that Jen sent to Josh and her parents for thanking them for the surprise. Apparently, she's also obsessed with Hamilton and this is making her year. Also, we live in LA. Do they expect me to give up my plane ticket / hotel? What the F was their game plan here? Look, I completely understand wanting to help out with Jen, and I feel really bad that apparently her family is filled with weirdos. But this has been all so baffling and the entitled behavior they displayed is a massive turnoff. I'm not giving up these tickets. Is this selfish? But I also kind of want to cut my losses here. The attitude Josh displayed towards me outside of the brunch place was very unpleasant to say the least. And he knows how disrespectful I find being called a "see you next Tuesday." So I'm of half mind to just break up with him. He knew I had these tickets for a while, and I don't get why he decided to do this now at all. But should I contact Jen and explain it all? I just saw that she made a really excited post on Facebook about it. I'm not friends with her, but I am friends with my boyfriend and he liked her post. I would straight up buy the ticket for her, but frankly I can't afford those prices because I'm saving up for the New York City trip for my mum. How do I move forward? And we do have like a very small update from OP in a moment. Now first, this is absolutely 100% breakup worthy to me. The behavior shown in this one post from one family excluding Jen is absolutely bizarre beyond belief. Jen knows no better, she just thinks that she's been given some tickets. But the way he reacted, the way that he snuck off in the kitchen and made this phone call and just gave away your super important experience with your mum is just so bizarre behavior. And it's like you said in your post, what was your end game in this? That you were just going to turn around? Well, yeah, obviously he was expecting you to just turn around and go, oh yeah, that's absolutely no problem. Take my tickets that I've been spent loads of money from, planned for, etc. You've obviously explained a lot of this in front of your boyfriend at one point because you've been talking about how excited it is. You've been showing texts from your mum to him. He knows. And then tried a huge manipulation tactic by taking you to brunch with parents you've only met a couple of times and trying to force you to hand over those tickets. And I gotta say as well, I was super hyped up for your mum. She sounds amazing. She sounds like so excitable. I love it. As for Jen, I'm not sure how you approach that situation. Do you message her and tell her, there's been a misunderstanding here and the exact details of that misunderstanding? Obviously, she's in a bit of a dark place anyway, which I know is not your responsibility at all. But if I was in OP's situation, I wouldn't want to poke at that. But at the same time, I wouldn't want Jen thinking of me as the one, who gave her tickets, then took them away again just like that. Because that's the way that they're going to twist this. They're going to blame it on you when you break up with this guy, hopefully. And I got to admit, it had me thinking about what Jen's home life is like, seeing the behavior displayed in this one post. Bizarre. But Weed420 Lord says, this is really bizarre and I think you should break up. I'm super confused though, as I'm sure are you. Who thinks this was a reasonable way to go about things in a million years? Nixie D says, don't hand them over. This is coming from a fellow theatre enthusiast. It's also something you gifted your mum months ago. Your boyfriend is being a grade A jackass and so are his parents. Cut him out and block any way he has of contacting you. Quite frankly, I'm shocked his parents aren't angry at him. Any reasonable person would be. They're all incredibly entitled, and for the guy you've been dating 4 to 5 months, you owe nothing to his sister. He can pony up the jacked up prices if he really wants her to go to the show. Edit, and if he throws a fit, tell him he can pay you $2,500 each for them. After all, that's the going rate and you should be properly compensated. They'll probably shut him up and his parents up. Don't actually do this. No money is worth giving up tickets to a show like that. Lemonade says, I would dump him. It's not just about the tickets, but the lack of respect. He chose not to tell you and waited for it to come out in public in hopes that you'd step down to avoid making a scene. You sound like you have a good relationship with your mum. Take her to the show. Good mums are forever, boys are temporary. Mount Carmore says, this is insane behavior from all three of the grown adults in his family. He called you a see you next Tuesday because he was too obtuse to understand your frustration. He offered up your gift to your mother to someone else without even asking you, and expected you to be pleased. This is just bonkers. His parents are as bad. Cut your losses for sure. Have a wonderful time at the show with your mother and forget this guy. Thank goodness you stood your ground on this. And one more from Carrot Top who says, I would ditch him. Email Jen and CC the whole family because lol, and let her know you are sorry for the confusion but you don't have any extra Hamilton tickets. I would be honest and say you and your mother had planned this trip for ages, and you have no idea why Josh would tell her you did. However, there are still some on sale, so maybe Josh or the parents will buy them for her since they clearly would like for her to be able to go. So OP gives us their mini update which says, yeah, I'm typing up an email dumping him right now. Normally I think it's better to meet up in real life for things like this, but his behavior both during and outside brunch was scary, and I'd prefer not to be alone with him right now. Maybe that's paranoid, but better safe than sorry. I think this is one of those situations where everything was so crazy and they were acting like this is totally normal behavior. I thought I was the insane one. And I think you're absolutely right to do this over email, text, or whatever form you feel safe with. The guy doesn't deserve that kind of respect for a face-to-face meeting like that, especially with their behavior and the way that they were acting. It just seems so bizarre to me. And I know this take is because I've read way too many Reddit stories, but you were saying that you're both in the theatre industry and part of agencies and stuff like that. I'm not sure what the contacts and the power you have within these industries, but a thought just popped into my head. Is there any way that he can affect your booking or anything like that? I don't know, just throwing that one out there. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What would you do in that situation? Now, just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, and your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being involved, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.
Wake up, get up, stretch my legs, eat some breakfast, milk and eggs, brush my teeth up, wash my face, throw my clothes on, start my day. Wake up, I can smell the smoke from the bacon. Let's go, see the sun shining from the windows. Okay, I know that today'll be a good day. Okay, I know that today'll be a good day. A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. Drink some water, brush my